So there's this encounter with Jesus, right, in the New Testament, where he said to the Pharisees, or was it the Sadducees, simply just the guys in the temple, the religious leaders. And he said, "You search the scriptures, so you find life, right? But it speaks about me." That's what he said, right? Some others people say it's a wrong translation. It's supposed to say, but it speaks about you. But regardless, we can take both of that into the same meaning, because if it speaks about them, then it speaks about their need to be saved, right? When it speaks about Christ, then it speaks about him being the answer to their need, right? Because when you but in general, what it really means is, when you look at the journey of the Hebrews, these people are like, you know it's like getting married with a narcissistic guy, right? You're given promise after promise, things are gonna get better, just be this, just do that, just do this for me, then I'm going to give you the happy life that you want. It's like the Hebrews, the Jews, are like these people who represent kind of abused people, right? We can see that right now in real life, individual lives, even in our own life. We can see that, we can see ourselves in that story, right? Where we are here working our ass off, just being dangled, with this carrot in front of our faces, and we have to be perfect somehow. We have to exceed some kind of. We have to become unnaturally great or perfect. We're being asked or demanded or required to reach a certain, to achieve, reach, or become, or establish a situation or some kind of setup, or a certain thing or state or process in our life that is too much. It's almost impossible to attain. And then at that point, you know, then you can have a happy life. You can have a peaceful life. You can have, you can retire somehow. And this is the story of the Hebrews or the Jews or the Israelites, right? So this God, promises Abraham that I'm going to give you this land. And then they get into this, this long story back and forth here and there, getting rejected, getting enslaved, and now they enslave, and now they go and kill people and stuff like that. They do things beyond what is normal, what is supposed to be. Life doesn't have to be like this, you know. And the law, the Torah, or the law and the prophets, are the law, okay, the law of Yahweh. It's like this. It's good, okay, when you look at it, but it's limited, right? So they had to expand it. You had to make additional laws out from that, and govern themselves into this strict laws that sometimes doesn't make sense, illogical, barbaric. Some of it are good, but it doesn't work, you know. Then they add another layer of laws, and then here comes this God, supposedly, who just shows his utter contempt for these people, you know, and how he belittles them as humans, you know. Simple mistake here, and he just kills them. Wrong way to hold a fire, and you're dead, you know. And you enter into this holy place without a proper ritual, then you're dead. When you have sickness, illness, you can't come close to him, or you're dead. So somehow that's what Jesus meant, okay? But they couldn't understand that because they're blinded. They think that the God, the true God, is Yahweh, right? This God who is so supposedly holy that you can't get close to him, right? This is a very funny idea. You know, we used to believe. I used to believe this. I used to feel like, you know, God is some strict parent or some, you know, super standard that kills you if you don't please him. It's like it's crazy. And then we utter in our mouth that God is love, God loves us, and then we have this totally different behavior towards him. So we think we have this dual thinking in our minds about this, about God. And this can only be removed if we, you know, if God leads you, the true God leads you to the truth. Claiming truth is one thing, claiming to have the truth is one thing, and trying to prove that. Knowing the truth is another, and it requires forgiveness. The only way you can actually truly see the truth is through forgiveness. Okay, the ability to forgive. You know, imagine that all the most evil people in the world will eventually be forgiven, and that's what Jesus taught, right? There's this one guy who owes a lot of money to this guy, right? And this businessman owes some money to the king, right? Just a small amount. Then when he didn't forgive the other guy, he was forgiven for his small debt. Then yeah, you know the story. He goes and collects from this poor guy who has a huge debt, you know, in maybe relatively it could be just small, but you know, for the poor guy it would be huge because he can't pay for it. And then he drags him to court and asks the king, you know, to imprison him, right? So what happened was that the businessman was also thrown into the prison, right? Because you can't get out. Your brain, your mind is closed because you can't forgive, and that's the key. You know, before I was, um, this is just my experience, okay? But you know, growing up like that, having all this resentment, and you know, it's hard to grow up in a in our lives. All of us, we don't really have perfect, you know, lives. And we all build up this. We pass, you know, the trauma from to each other. You know, we don't know if we did it. We don't do it usually consciously. We're unconscious. We just traumatize each other. You know, we don't even know what we're doing. We don't even, you know, we're unconscious. We're unconscious beings. We slowly become awake. The older we get. When we're young, no matter how we claim to be aware of what we're doing, we're not. You know, we're just like living in a dream state. We're just acting on impulse. You know, even today when we're older, we really, sometimes our impulses, we can control it, right? Because of this trauma, or maybe we have stress, or we have the depression or something. There's the things that affect us are out of our control. Usually, our emotions, like that. No one can hold their emotions. Just grip it. Just stop being sad, stop being lonely. We can't do that. We just All we can do is just wait it out, or change the circumstance, or do something else. That's what we do, right? And in this journey, if we don't practice love and forgiveness, and this is every day, right? We endure this shit every day. We're carrying this cross every day, okay? All of us. Some might seem like they're just casting their crosses to other people, but they don't really know that. Until such a point, at the breaking point, when you get tired of it all, it's enough. That's enough of that. Enough. When something clicks in your mind, in your emotion, that you realize that this is bullshit. Everything that is steering inside you, in your mind, driving you to do this and be in that, it's bullshit. Everything doesn't make sense. It's useless. It doesn't lead you to the promised land. And even if you think that you're in the promised land, in there's conflict. There's no peace. There are curses there, right? And you have to try to be perfect. So it's the same story. We live this story. That's why to some, the Old Testament is something they can't let go of, because they're living it. Somehow, their inner lives reflect are reflected on this story. But what holds them back is this love for this narcissistic, egoistic God in the Old Testament. And you know, to my surprise, even to myself, I used to claim that God is love right now. But I was very angry. I was very unforgiving to other people, judgmental. And I didn't realize this. I was even saying that I was even playing the role that I'm a forgiving person, you know, but it's not true. Inside me, it's not sincere. It's not true. I wanted things, I wanted to do things, but I can't. And then I'm jealous. And in such a way, it's a twisted way. The bottom line is I wanted the world to end for some reason. I'm yearning for the world to end, quote unquote sinners to get punished, to justify the way I held myself back from simple pleasures. Things that really doesn't matter. I hold myself guilty over things that, doesn't affect anyone, doesn't affect me, and it even hurts me more if I don't enjoy them, I don't partake in them. They're not extreme vices or anything like that. And that's another thing about laws and trying to be perfect is the more you try to focus on your weakness, on the things that quote unquote are your faults, sins, the more these things become bigger in your life. Whatever your focus is, right, that's the one you're cultivating in your mind. So when you focus on the good things that you're doing, then the good things will That's why in the New Testament, right, the advice is to focus on higher things, good things, right? Stop focusing on the little things and the small things and this and that, right? Don't eat, don't touch, you know. And it's strange that, once I was liberated, I knew I could. It's fine to do these things. Then it subsided. The desire to do them subsided because it's not really important. It's not really that entertaining or healing because sometimes the wounds that we seek to heal are self-inflicted and again caused by this abusive cycle in our own minds, right? That God is this and that, and it's like having this abusive parent. You know, there's this guilt tripping, all that shit, man. You know what I mean? Unless if you're already, you know, to my atheist friends there, I know, I know a lot of atheists in my life, okay? And some are in between, they're deists, stuff like that. Yeah. The strange thing I find in atheists online is that how bitter they sound when they speak. Okay, and everything to them is a judgment. And you say they seem bitter and hateful, or very, some are extremely condescending to the point that they're like stabbing you with their words. Not in a good way, not in a healing way, but it's very. They themselves seem like very narcissistic, very egoistic, and their hurtful words. It's like trying trying to prop up themselves as the better person, and the other person is the you know a stupid, a fool. It's too much to me. These people also has issues in their own mind, that their atheism is not really a true atheism, but some kind of uh, some kind of you know it's like stopping the water from one hole from escaping through one hole, and then it explodes in another, creates another hole somewhere else. It's like that. It's like there's steam there inside. Christians or religious people have this also. Other religions have this effect. you know Islam, Christian, and all the denominations. It's people, because it's not about the religion. I think it's the trauma, it's the abuse, and this cycle, this religion, sometimes it becomes the point of healing. Sometimes it becomes, the vehicle for healing. Either you have to go through the process, of projecting your traumas there. You to, you know, this is a very complex subject, but I've done some research about this. You know, when the effects of the way the Bible, or the ideas, the memes of the church, the effects of this to a person. The idea, for example, of born a sinner, stuff like that. The need to sacrifice. All of these things have psychological effects. And it's true. What Jordan Peterson sees in these religious texts and the ideas there, so they reflect human experience, right? Even the sacrifice thing that he is preaching, which I don't believe, by the way, I don't subscribe to, because it's really making him miserable the way he adapts this to his life, because I think that's what his life is. Like he has forsaken himself for somebody else. Think with all his brilliance, with all our brilliance, me, you, the most brilliant people in the world, there's just something wrong that, you know, keeps producing steam here inside ourselves, pushing us forward either towards good for others, to ourselves, or not. It's either life or destruction. No matter where you stand, right? It's it's not about what we say, really. It's not about what we claim to believe, but how we ourselves are shaped by these things. How we are, how we are compelled by these things. You say you love someone, or you're in a relationship with this great guy, but then how it affects you is weird. It's not, can't control it, and then it brings out things in you. So it doesn't matter. The ideal doesn't matter. That's why Jesus' message is that the highest power, Creator Himself, the most important, the greatest thing is this love thing. Love your neighbor. Love others as I have loved you. We don't deserve to be loved by this God, right? If we attach this idea to the Old Testament thing. But we are loved beforehand, right? Because if He didn't love us, He wouldn't have sent His Son to show the way, right? To show the truth. So the way He loved us is this. There's no condition but acceptance of not only the imperfection, because there's no judgment in love, right? It's a form of acceptance, and that the idealism in that acceptance, the good that we wish to produce in that relationship based, it's not ideal based, it's relationship based. So for example, you are in relation to this God, right? The highest form. So in a way, it changes the dynamics of within yourself towards this being, and it changes your behavior towards your fellow man and what your expectations are. Then the way this acceptance is not okay. I'll accept you now, hoping, I'm accepting your future self, not you, but your future self. It's not like that, right? When you become perfect, then that's the time that I am satisfied. No, that's not how it is. You're accepted now with your faults, so-called faults, the things that are not in harmony, so-called, right? Because this is very subjective thing. Very subjective thing. Do no harm because and then harm comes in many forms. That's why the do no harm of the Ten Commandments is, you know, satisfied or achieved. I'm sorry for all these dings. It's just this is just how my life works too. Sometimes something interrupts when I'm doing something like this, and I don't want to record again. So now I lost my train of thought. So that's why love is greater than the law, because that's why it also fulfills the law. Not because it is the law, that love is the law. This is another wrong thing that the church teaches, that love and the law is the same. It's not. Love is so great, it's so big that it encompasses the requirements of the Ten Commandments, the law. The do no harm principle is inside, within the love. The law of love, the dynamics of love is within the do no harm. But then we also realize that the law, the Torah, is not just do no harm, but there's also, if you harm me, then I'm gonna harm you. Okay, it's eye for an eye, right? Then the love of the greatest of a true God is so great because He is invincible, right? He's so great He can take anything. That's why His law is greater than the Torah, the law. So His dynamic, His system is far greater, and it compasses that. It fulfills that, right? So like, you don't covet what is in your neighbor. Don't steal, you don't kill, That's automatic when you love, right? So you don't have to have 10 laws, but you have this greater law, this love. And love is not only about do no harm. It's not about isolation. It's not about forcing yourself on others, trying to make them perfect, just like the law, what the law does. It's about accepting the human life, the bullshit that we experience every day from each other, the goods, the bad, and dealing with that together, right? Personally, individually, as a society. We don't just go and you know destroy this group of people because this is who they are. It's interaction. It's like living with a family that is, all of them are open, and then they evolve together, because this is very subjective context, when we think about it, that this idea of love, how we apply this to our situation as humans, is different if we are, a different, let's say, different race with different technological advance, different psychological makeup. It's different. So it's bigger. This love idea is a bigger thing. than we imagine.